I'm really struggling right now. I found myself this morning scrolling through YouTube when I was getting ready to work out. You know, I getting ready to do my stretching and my strength work this morning and just kind of getting my body ready for the day. And I'm just scrolling around and I realized that I was experiencing something that I've been feeling a lot lately, which is I'm like not even remotely interested in 90% of the things that I see on YouTube, especially in the filmmaking space. Like, I'm just not interested. You're right. What's about that? There are a few places that I love to go that make me feel inspired. You know, when I'm writing a play or a screenplay or songs or whatever, when I'm trying to be creative, there are certain places that I go to. And one of those places is the subway. Like, I'll just ride the subway, but I don't really feel like you could do that anymore. It's just, the energy is weird in the subway. And I'm not saying that it's crazy violent or anything like that. I'm just saying it's different than it used to be. So I don't really do that anymore. But I love to go to Fordham Road in the Bronx. It's one of my favorite places on earth. When I was a kid, I used to love to just walk up and down Fordham Road. And I love going to Fordham Road because the world, like, there's so much humanity around you and so many different kinds of people and so many different languages, and there's so much going on. And it's really inspiring, and it's fast, and it's furious, and people are laughing, and people are screaming, and people are trying to get to where they want to go, and it's just crazy. There are buses, you can hear the trains, if you're up by the Grand Concourse. You can go to Arthur Avenue and see the real Little Italy. No shot at Mulberry Street, but to me the Bronx That's the real Little Italy. I love to be by the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, you know, up by Fulton Street, Atlantic Avenue, that whole area, that hub. I love to just like find a little restaurant and just sit outside and the whole world is going through. You know, it's an incredible kind of melding of every piece of humanity coming together. I love being there. You know, I love being on Nostrand Avenue up by Fulton Street in Brooklyn. Same thing, just crazy. 125th Street, you know, by where the D train is just amazing. You know, there's so much going on. So much going on. There's a lot of places I like to go to. I love to go to Coney Island and just like walk around, just kind of, you know, especially in the summer. I mean, I love to go there in the winter too because there's nobody there. And it's an incredible kind of solitary feeling when there's nobody in a place like Coney Island, this amusement park where it's just shut down for the winter, and there's just like, I feel like there are spirits there, like ghosts in that place. And especially when you go to the boardwalk, you go out to the ocean. But in the summer, it's incredible. It's incredible. You know, you just hear little kids laughing and people screaming on the rides, you know, it's amazing. But I think the best place for me is to go to Midtown Manhattan. And so I had to go see my kinesiologist the other day, and you know, for those who don't know what that is, it's like a kind of like a chiropractor on steroids. He's like, that's my main doctor, actually. That's my primary care physician. I've known this guy for many, many years. He's a genius, and he's right in Midtown. So I took the opportunity to stop at this little bagel place, which I don't really eat bagels that much, but every once in a while I do, you know, because if I'm in Midtown, bagels and pizza, it's like in New York City, it's hard to find a bad bagel or a bad slice of pizza in New York City. So when I'm downtown, I try to take advantage of that, even though most of the time I eat kind of like a science project. But anyway, I was in Midtown. I sat down at this little restaurant. It was a little bagel place between 29th and 30th and 7th Avenue, like, you know, right around Madison Square Garden and Penn Station and Herald Square and that whole area, Garment District, where my father used to work. He was a garmento. And I just sat there. And there was so much going on. You know, it was crazy. You know, sirens and ambulances and fire trucks and people rushing all over the place and cabs and, you know, all the stores and just the voices and again, the languages and the different cultures and the beautiful clothes and the hair and the skin and just everything, like just life. Like to me, it's the greatest place in the world because everybody's there. You know what I mean? Like everybody, like it's proof that everybody can coexist in one place. And I love to be there, and it makes my head explode with inspiration. And I've been feeling like I needed that lately because I've been, like I said, I've been feeling kind of bored, you know? I'm not somebody who likes to front at all, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and make up stuff to just do a video. You know, like the last video I did with my anamorphic lens, I tried to have some fun for me, you know, and I'm just trying to figure out what can I really contribute, you know, that I believe in, that's sincere and genuine, you know, because I'm telling you, if I watch one more like lens review or camera review or whatever, it's just like, I just feel like people are like creating shit just to put out videos because it's kind of maxed out. Like everything that you need with regards to cameras is on YouTube already. From years and years and years of people posting stuff, you don't need any more, you know. I guess when a new camera comes out, then people could say, oh, a new camera's out, but you know, is it really that cutting edge? Is it really doing anything that different from the cameras that came out a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago? Not really. Are the lenses that different? You know, aperture is aperture, you know, sharpness is sharpness, you know, a focal length is a focal length. I mean, that's it, you know. Cameras, I mean, ISO is ISO, white balance is white balance, composition is composition, exposure is exposure. You know, ergonomics, like you know, come on. Like nothing's coming out that's that different. It's a camera. we've kind of become numb to beautiful places. You know, you could turn on YouTube every day and you could be in Ireland or the UK or up in Canada or in Brazil, or you could be anywhere in the world and you can see it on a beautiful screen and you could be immersed in this beautiful story that somebody's creating. And it's like, it kind of scares me a little bit. Like, we don't feel like we need to do anything anymore because we have it to experience right there in front of us, you know? It's just weird. That's why I love filmmaking, for real, like narrative filmmaking, like storytelling, like creating a story or making a documentary about something that's going on in the world that we need to know about. And yes, that includes politics because that's real life. And you know, I feel like we tend to shy away from real things. We don't want to deal with real stuff. We just want to deal with specs of cameras or, you know, the stuff that our hobbies about, you know, our hobbies are about. But we don't want to deal with, you know, social issues and political issues and things like that. And you know, I wonder how many people are actually watching movies. And I'm not talking about superhero movies because, yeah, everybody goes to, you know, the Marvel movies and stuff like that. But, you know, what about the storytelling movies that aren't superheroes, that are real people, you know, dramas? You know, are people really going to see, you know, Killers of the Flower Moon or 1917, stuff like that? Like, I wonder, you know, I think that we talk about it on YouTube and we talk about the high level of cinematography and people like Roger Deakins and, you know, we acknowledge that, but are most people really doing that or are most people just on YouTube? I think I can provide a more human experience, you know, more storytelling experience, but also share the technical aspects of how I'm doing it, you know. Like maybe that's something I could do. You know, I have like these two tiny little lights on me right now. I got these little tiny lights back there. I don't have a big, you know, key light or anything like most people do. I tend to like harder light. I don't really like soft light so much. And if I need soft light, I tend to just use natural light. You know, I'll go in front of a window or I'm outside. I like to make things look the way they look in real life, or I want to go for the emotion, you know, with harder light. But I love working with light. I find it's everything with shadows and highlights, and I think it's just something really beautiful about that, that I think is what draws everybody to photography and filmmaking is the light. Even if you don't realize it, that's what you love about it. You love the light, you love how the light affects color, how it affects texture, how it affects mood, how it affects depth of field. Depth of field is much more controlled by light than it is just changing your aperture. You know, changing your aperture is easy. Like right now, I'm shooting at, I think, f1.4 on a micro four thirds lens. I'm using a Panasonic GH5 to make this video, and I'm shooting with a Mikey 35mm, which is really a 70mm. And so I have it at f1.4, which is really f2.8. And so the back is blurred out, you know, somewhat. But that's easy. You know, it's really more about the light and the foreground and the background. Composition, you know, is everything. These are the things I'm more interested in. Sitting in Manhattan the other day with everything around me, it made me realize this is what I miss more than anything. You know, I used to rehearse my plays walking through the streets. Like my first play, Broke Wide Open, was 2.5 hours long. And at the time, I was actually living in Asbury Park, New Jersey when I started working on that. Then first I was living in Brooklyn. Then I was living in Asbury Park. Then I moved to Washington Heights, uptown Manhattan. So anyway, what I did was I used to go visit a friend of mine, an older man, a kind of a mentor, I would say, who was in his late 90s at that time. I lived up on 157th Street. He lived on 83rd Street in Riverside. I also lived on Riverside at the time. And in New York City, 20 city blocks is 1 mile. So I used to walk every day from 157th down to 83rd Street, and that would usually cover the first half of my play. And then I'd hang out with Mr. Rollins, that was his name, and then I'd walk home and do the second half of the play. When I was working on Brooklyn Quartet, I was living in the Bronx. So I used to walk from Fordham Road in the Bronx to Brooklyn, to the Brooklyn Bridge, and back. And that would usually be, running through the play twice, because Brooklyn Quartet was about 2.5 hours as well. I would say one run through that play would be from like 97th and Columbus. I'd walk uptown and I'd cross the McCombs Bridge at 155th Street up by Yankee Stadium. I'd go up the Grand Concourse and I'd walk all the way up to, I would say, the end of the Grand Concourse where I live by Van Cortlandt Avenue, Gun Hill and Jerome Avenue, and that would be the whole play. And it was an amazing way to rehearse because I'd be passing all of this life around me all the time and I'd be hearing all this stuff. And first of all, it's great for your focus because if you can memorize a script like that, nothing will ever take you off your words. Like, memorize a script in your apartment or in your house or in a studio or wherever you rehearse. The minute you go outside, you're going to lose everything because all of a sudden your brain is getting all this other information and it's kind of fucking with what you just learned. And so you got to get out there and be around real life. And that's what makes the words kind of come to life as well, because then you're kind of a part of humanity, of what's happening. And then you can imagine, the story that you're inside of, and you kind of make the people that you're passing by and the buses and the trains and the cars and the birds and everything, the planes, you kind of make everything a part of the story. I miss this so much, I miss being out here. And ever since the pandemic, I just find myself not doing that anymore so much, not just like, first of all, I moved out of the city, but I'm in the city all the time. And so I have no excuse to not do it, And you could do it anywhere where you live, but, New York City is kind of, a unique place. There's like more people in a condensed area than anywhere else in the world. It's like, it's crazy. It's like you're in a crowded train all the time, which I like. It's kind of annoying sometimes, and it's kind of scary sometimes, but I love it. It feels human to me. It feels like the way things are supposed to be. What do I do with my YouTube channel that's interesting? Because I'm not going to do reviews and things like that. I don't care. I don't care. I will tell you what I use all the time because I love my stuff, I have nothing but vintage lenses and anamorphic lenses. And, I have the GH5 as a backup camera, but I love it. I just bought it recently. And honestly, if I had owned this camera first, I don't know that I ever would have changed cameras. Like it's a remarkably good camera. And I have two of the cheapest lenses you can imagine. Both of them well under $100, and they look great. This looks good, right? So I will always share what I'm using, but I got to figure out what to do here that makes me not feel like I'm just taking up space and just trying to get you to watch and trying to get you to subscribe and trying to get you to hit the like button. Like, I don't want to do that. I want people to come here because they're like, I love going to that channel, I don't know, in this filmmaking photography space, I feel like people are bored. I feel like they've run out of ideas, or maybe it's just me. Like, I got it, I get it. I've seen it 1 billion times. I've seen this exact video 1 million times. I don't want to see it anymore. I'm tired of it. you know. Like I find myself more and more sitting in silence when I work out or I listen to music, you know, Coltrane, Miles. The reason I love jazz so much is because you can hear the same song 5 million times. John Coltrane's Impressions, you know, Round Midnight, Miles, something like that. And it'll never sound the same depending on who's playing it, because every time somebody takes a solo, all the notes are different. All the harmony is different. Everything is different. That's what's so beautiful about jazz. That's what's great about music. People are constantly writing new songs. And even though a lot of music might be derivative, it's always changing, you know. But this space seems to have really stopped, you know, evolving and changing. And yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. So, and you know, I've never really been a part of the filmmaking, photography space for real anyway. I'm not that kind of YouTuber, you know, I'm not even a YouTuber. But I do have a YouTube channel, and I want it to be something of value. Sitting in the city really helped me quite a bit, you know. And it reminded me that there's so much going on in the world, which means there's so much to talk about. And it's a risk to talk about that sometimes because people, I find, are more into virtual world than the real world. And I don't know, I think that I might take the defiant stance of trying to keep this as real world as possible. Even if it's in a fantasy, because I'm a storyteller, I'm a performing artist by trade. You know, that's what I do. I make up these fake stories that are based on real life. And I try to create something that, you know, hopefully entertains people, but also provides disruption so that people have to stop and think and consider and feel. That's what I want. I want you to feel something every time you come to my channel. You know, I want you to be affected. You know, I don't want to be part of the scrolling. You know, when people come here, I want them to go, damn, that's kind of different. You know, that's not like everything else. I've never been like anybody else, you know, to my detriment in my life too sometimes. You know, I've always gone my own way. I've always marched my own drummer. I could care less what other people think. And it's the same here. I don't really care what you think. You know, if you don't like what I do, it's fine, go somewhere else. But if you are kind enough to come here, if you're nice enough to take some of your minutes and hours and spend them with me, then I want to make it worth it for you. I want you to feel good about that, you know. I want you to be inspired. So that's what I'm going for. So I got to figure it out. But being around the city felt good. And I think I'm going to do that more often. You know, it's kind of like an infusion, like a blood transfusion, it's like a shot of wheatgrass juice. It just makes me feel healthy and kind of reminds me of who I am. And it grounds me, you know, it makes me feel like my feet can feel the ground again, you know. And it also puts everything in perspective, because when I look around, I think, man, I am a speck of sand in this ocean of humanity. When you come here, I want you to feel like this channel is about all of us. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. That's my goal. It's my hope. That's my task. It's my job. And everything that I do, whether I'm making a movie, whether I'm acting for somebody else who hired me, whether I'm on stage doing a play, whether I'm making a YouTube video, whether I'm singing, like whatever I'm doing, my job is to connect with whoever is receiving the work that I'm giving. That's you when you come to this channel. So I hope I do a good job.